So I have this neighbor, Dave. He's one of those guys who's always grumbling about something. If it's not the lawnmower noise, it's the kids running around or the weather being too hot or too cold. He's also notorious for calling people out if their trash cans are a few inches over the property line or if they park too close to the curb. I've never had an issue with him directly, but I'll admit, I've always found him a bit insufferable. He's that guy who will stand on his porch and stare you down like you're doing something wrong, even though you're just like checking your mail. Anyway, last week I got home from work and checked my mailbox. I had a few letters, mostly bills and junk mail, but one envelope caught my eye. It was from Dave. My first thought was, what now? Is he complaining about my dog barking? But when I opened it, I was honestly taken aback. Inside, there was a simple note that read, I've noticed your car's brake light has been out for a few days. Just wanted to let you know before it becomes a bigger issue. Dave. There was no scolding, no attitude, just a genuine attempt to help. I had no idea how long the brake light had been out, but sure enough, I checked it later, and it was dead. I immediately went over to his house to thank him. When I knocked on his door, he just shrugged and said, I figured you'd appreciate the heads up. Doesn't make sense to have someone driving around with that not working. It hit me how wrong I'd been about him. Maybe he's not the grouchy old guy I thought he was. Maybe he's just a little more blunt than others, but still cares about the community. Moral of the story, don't judge a book by its grumpy cover. What do you think? Would you add anything to it? Story 2. I 27F just found out my husband, 30M, has been pretending to be a cat online for 3 years, and I don't know what to do. Okay, so I'm literally shaking while typing this. My husband and I have been married for 5 years, together for 7. He's always been kind of quirky. Like he talks to our cat in full sentences, but I thought it was just cute or whatever. Last night, I was using his laptop because mine died, and I noticed his Reddit was still logged in. I know, I shouldn't have snooped, but something in me told me to look. Y'all, this grown man, has been running a whole-ass cat roleplay account for 3 years. He writes in first person as a cat. Like, human forgot to feed me today. Vengeance will be swift. Time to knock glass from high place. But that's not even the worst part. He's popular. Like top posts, awards, thousands of followers. People genuinely think he's a cat. He has internet friends that think they're talking to some sassy British short hair named Mr. Whiskers. He gets into fights with other cat accounts about territory and kibble brands. I went into the rabbit hole, and this man has a full-fledged cat nemesis named Sir Pounce-A-Lot. They have beef. There's literal fan fiction of their rivalry in the comments. When I confronted him, he just sighed and went, You weren't supposed to find out like this. Like, find out what, sir? That I married Warrior Cat's fanfic roleplay Tumblr in human form? I don't know what to do. He's the love of my life, but I can't look at him without imagining him typing out, Melem. The humans have displeased me once again. Do I divorce him? Do I make an account and become his rival? How do I move forward from this? Story 3. Flying home last week, I sat down at the gate about 20-30 minutes before boarding. Took a few minutes to repack bags and have a snack. Then someone sat one chair over. He's a tall, older guy in a blue suit with many miles on it, with a carry-on and a used-to-be black leather flap briefcase that's probably decades old. A minute later, he's talking to his phone through an earpiece, apparently dictating an email or long text message. He says, comma, question mark, naming punctuation as he speaks. I hear him talking, but the words don't really register at first. Then my heart breaks as I hear his message. He says things like, I had first reached out after you contacted me through my OkCupid profile. Pause. I wanted to try again to see if we could get together for a coffee. Pause. Text deleting. I'd really like to have a conversation with you. And worst, if you're apathetic about me, please let me know as it hurts that I'm hearing nothing from your side. At this point, I grabbed my AirPods so I could listen to some music. It was a little uncomfortable, or tried to. They weren't in my pocket. I stood up, freaking out, realizing the last place I remember seeing them is the rental car drop-off, and there's no way I could get back there and still make my flight. Went to Find My on the phone, and it looks like they are back in the garage. But then the icon moves closer. Looks like they're at security. I ran over, went to the main desk, and on it I saw a small plastic X-ray tray with chapstick and my AirPods. If this guy hadn't done his dictating, I probably wouldn't have checked until on the plane, and in all likelihood, they'd be lost. I walked back to the gate, still 5 minutes or so to board, and realized I needed to thank him for helping me, however unconsciously, from his side. I stopped in front of him and said, "Excuse me, sir? When I heard you dictating on your phone a moment ago, I realized I didn't have my own headphones and was able to go back and find them before we left. If you hadn't been dictating, I probably would have lost mine. You really helped me out without even knowing it, and I want to thank you very much." The smile on his face was really poignant, big but with a little bit of a quiver at the edges, as if hiding the sadness behind it. Like he was extra happy to have done something nice for another. I'll never forget that smile, as he gave me another one just like it after we got off the plane, never to meet again. Story 4. Nearly 9 years to the date, my dad, 55 years old at the time, died. In the early morning hours of Saturday, February 20th, 2016, my mom woke up to my dad's CPAP machine that he had only gotten a month prior, making weird noises. She poked him to wake him up, but he was not responsive. He suddenly let out a big breath and smiled, and then my mom realized he didn't have a pulse. He was having a massive heart attack. My mom frantically called my little brother, a sophomore in high school at the time, to come help her get him off the bed and start doing CPR. While my little brother was doing chest compressions, she called 911. The paramedics came and had to do shock therapy to get his pulse back. They took him away in an ambulance. At the hospital, they sedated him and started doing a freeze therapy to try and save his brain cells. The doctor told my mom that my little brother literally saved his life by doing CPR. Later that afternoon, he was airlifted to a downtown hospital known for having better cardiac doctors. On Monday, a neurologist came to examine my dad. He told my mom that there were 3 stages of awareness: opening the eyes and responding. Opening the eyes but not focusing on anything, where my dad was at. A vegetative state. Tuesday was my dad's 56th birthday. His cardiologist told my mom that he's never seen anyone come out of a coma like my dad was in. He began pressuring her to make a decision about pulling his breathing tube out and letting him pass in his sleep. When she came home from the hospital that night, she sat my siblings and me down and told us what the doctor told her. My mom told us that she wanted to leave it in God's hands and would make her decision that Friday. My dad was scheduled to have an MRI to determine any brain damage, which would help her make her decision. The next day, I decided to visit my dad in the hospital to say goodbye. I had a hard time coming to terms with the fact that my dad was probably going to die. I saw him gagging on his breathing tube, staring blankly into space, and hooked up to neurological wires. This image of my dad lying motionless in his coma still haunts me. Friday morning was our miracle day. He woke up, was fully responsive and aware. The nurses couldn't even believe it. My entire family ran to the hospital to see him, but my dad's cardiologist didn't seem too excited. He seemed upset that he was wrong and tried to even downplay everything with all of us there. Every day after that Friday, he improved. He eventually could talk again, walk on his own, and went to rehab a few weeks later. He finally returned home in March. One of the first things my dad asked when he woke up was when his mom was going to visit him. We were all confused because she passed away in 2009. He started crying, as if reliving the day she passed away. Recently, he told us that he remembered hearing her voice when he was in his coma. He also remembered seeing big, beautiful pink clouds with little angel babies popping out of them. According to my dad, he said he felt like he just took a nap and woke up in the hospital. As of today, my dad is fully recovered. He's retired, living on his farm, and just underwent bypass surgery in the fall, but made a full recovery. I hope you enjoyed these Reddit stories. Remember to like and subscribe, and come back for more.